Takuma Shinozaki, a recent graduate, has just started his new job in product development. As part of the company's A-team, he works alongside Shiori Katase, a senior who's been with the company for 3 years. Despite her petite size, Shiori takes on the role of guiding Takuma through the workplace. One morning, on the way to work, Takuma sees Shiori playing with a cat by the roadside. After teasing her about it, they head to work together, where Shiori informs him that their manager, Chihiro Okunashi, has prepared the team for an upcoming project competition. Though Shiori may be small, she is the most responsible member of the team, often acting as its mother figure. When Shiori complains of shoulder pain, Takuma, in a moment of awkwardness, suggests giving her a massage to help her stiff shoulders, but instantly regrets it as his imagination runs wild. However, Shiori flips the situation, offering him a massage instead. Despite her small hands, she delivers a surprisingly good massage, leaving Takuma embarrassed and prompting him to make a hasty exit. At work, Takuma grows anxious about his first big proposal. As he practices his presentation, Shiori sneaks up on him and offers advice, recalling her own first presentation where she accidentally showed her PowerPoint upside down. Despite this attempt to ease his nerves, Takuma remains worried about his public speaking skills. Shiori tries to comfort him by offering a good luck charm and places her hand close to his face. The close proximity leaves them both flustered. As the end-of-month company drinking party approaches, Takuma confirms the attendance of Aiko Yamajishi, another new graduate from Team B, but is met with a blunt rejection from Chinatsu Heikawa, a fellow new hire. Aiko suspects there might be something romantic between Takuma and Chinatsu, but both deny it. When Shiori later questions Takuma about his relationship with Chinatsu, he reveals that they are childhood friends. Shiori admits feeling jealous, but not for the reasons Takuma expects. It turns out she's envious of his friendship with the cool and composed Chinatsu. To help ease the tension, Takuma arranges a group dinner with both Shiori and Chinatsu. At work, Takuma notices Shiori calmly correcting a colleague's work. She surprises him by remaining composed, even when the coworker had clearly been slacking. Shiori explains that she doesn't get angry as long as people own up to their mistakes, then casually asks Takuma if he's been doing his work properly too. She then climbs nearby stairs to pat his head, encouraging him to keep up his hard work for the team. Later, while staying late to finish a project, Shiori approaches him with 2 drinks, explaining that she bought an extra one by accident. She offers to help him with his workload since, in her view, it's a senior's job to support their juniors. They end up working late together, and when Shiori sneezes, Takuma shyly offers her his sweater, to which she blushes. However, Shiori quickly returns the sweater, worried their colleagues might get the wrong idea. The next morning, Takuma once again catches Shiori playing with a cat, and this time, he can't help but tease her by making cat noises. Their coworkers find their playful interaction amusing. Later, Shiori receives a gift of cookies from another employee, and during a break, she approaches Takuma looking unusually serious. She asks him a strange question. Do you prefer bears or bunnies? Completely confused, he stammers out an answer, and she rewards him with a bear-shaped cookie. The following day, Shiori arrives at the office before everyone else. While arranging her desk, she drops her pen under Takuma's desk. Without noticing her, Takuma arrives at work and an awkward situation unfolds when Shiori bumps her head on the desk while retrieving her pen. Their manager Chihiro and coworker Aiko witness the scene and seem unimpressed. Later, Chihiro, suspecting that Takuma and Shiori might be more than just coworkers, assigns them to a project that conveniently ends with them having dinner together. As they leave the office, Chihiro decides to spy on them, curious about their relationship. He ropes Chinatsu into his scheme, who initially insists she has no feelings for Takuma, but gets caught up in the drama nonetheless. At the restaurant, Chihiro and Chinatsu observe Takuma and Shiori, but they're surprised to see the pair ignore the romantic setting, instead focusing on enjoying the meal and the view. Chihiro admits he loves watching budding romances, much to Chinatsu's bemusement. The next day, Chinatsu joins Takuma on his walk to work and asks him about the umbrella he's carrying. Takuma explains he brought it because the TV said it was the lucky item of the day. And sure enough, after work, it begins to rain. Spotting Shiori waiting out the downpour, Takuma offers to share his umbrella, and they walk home together. Takuma's nervous small talk doesn't go well, but Shiori manages to keep the conversation flowing, encouraging him to bond more with the team. She also reveals that the section chief has been impressed by his progress. Takuma had recently joined the company after hearing good things about his work. His senior, Shiori, decided to mentor him. After parting ways at a bookstore, Shiori reveals she had an umbrella all along, which she hadn't mentioned earlier. The next day, Shiori notices that Takuma is absent, and her colleague Chinatsu informs her that he called in sick. Concerned, Shiori wonders if the rain got him ill. Later, while Takuma is recovering, Shiori unexpectedly visits his apartment, bringing supplies and offering to cook for him. She ends up doing more than intended, helping with chores. Before leaving, she shyly admits she feels like an older sister to him and leaves embarrassed after spending so much time with Takuma. Once he recovers, Takuma asks his childhood friend, Chinatsu, for advice on how to thank Shiori. They discuss potential gifts and settle on an apron, something food-related. Takuma, feeling nervous, almost backs out of giving the gift, but eventually works up the courage. Although Shiori appreciates the gesture, the exchange results in an awkward moment between them. Chinatsu quietly observes their interactions, amused by the situation. At work, Yu Yamagishi from public relations arrives and complains to Takuma about how the week has barely started, feeling long already. Chinatsu interrupts their conversation, encouraging them to get back to work. Meanwhile, Shiori and Takuma exchange a friendly greeting, lifting Takuma's spirits about the work week. During their conversation, Chihiro reveals that Shiori had been keeping track of Takuma's application and interviews with excitement since she loves meeting new people. Shiori, overhearing their conversation, joins in, and they all talk about Takuma's first day. Takuma remembers being surprised by Shiori's small stature and feeling intimidated by her serious demeanor as his mentor. He worried about making a bad first impression, but Shiori had simply been trying to impress him. Despite his initial nerves, Shiori was incredibly helpful, and the two quickly became friends, though the memory of their first meeting still makes them feel awkward. A few days later, Takuma is assigned a presentation for another company, and Shiori helps him prepare. On their way back, they stop at an arcade and spot a crane game filled with plushies. Both admit somewhat awkwardly that the plushies resemble each other. Shiori teases Takuma for looking like a bear plushie, while Takuma says she resembles a bunny. Determined to impress, Takuma offers to win the plushies for them, revealing that he used to play crane games frequently in high school. They bond over their shared love for cute things, though Takuma feels embarrassed to admit it. Shiori's animated reactions while he plays make him laugh, and after several tries, he wins the plushies. Shiori suggests keeping the plushies together so they won't be lonely, which sparks Takuma's imagination. She decides to name the plushies after themselves, leading to more awkwardness between the two. At work, Aiko approaches Takuma and Chinatsu to ask their opinion on a new game concept she's designing, a dating sim featuring Mao Taro, a cute mascot character. Both are confused by the idea, especially when Shiori, a fan of Mao Taro, expresses her own confusion. Determined to make the game work, Aiko asks them for romantic advice, but none of them have any real experience. Takuma jokingly brings up a past romantic encounter Chinatsu had when a man helped her with a broken shoe on her way to an interview. Chinatsu dismisses the memory, revealing that the man was actually Chihiro, their team manager, and that she no longer finds him attractive due to his eccentric behaviors. That night, Shiori sits with the plushies they won, feeling a bit embarrassed about naming them after herself and Takuma. She starts dressing the plushies in tiny clothes, but soon feels self-conscious, turning the Takuma plushie to face the wall. When the plushies accidentally bump into each other, Shiori imagines a romantic moment between her and Takuma. As she rearranges them, she reflects on her growing friendship with him. Meanwhile, Chinatsu finds herself in an embarrassing situation at a cosplay event when she unexpectedly runs into Chihiro while in costume. Panicking, she tries to pretend she's someone else, but Chihiro easily recognizes her. Instead of teasing her, Chihiro compliments her craftsmanship and outfit, expressing admiration for people with hobbies, as he doesn't have many of his own. Embarrassed by his compliments, Chinatsu asks him to keep her cosplay hobby a secret from their coworkers. Chihiro agrees, but not before playfully teasing her with more compliments. Later that night, Chinatsu struggles to focus on her manga, her thoughts occupied with the day's events. The following morning, Chinatsu's stress causes her to fall behind in her work, prompting concern from both Takuma and Shiori. Shiori encourages Chinatsu to get more rest and suggests she try counting cats to help. Their manager, Chihiro, expresses his concern, but Chinatsu still feels shy around him. Out of the blue, Chihiro asks if they can have a private conversation after work, which leaves her flustered. She accepts, despite some teasing from Shiori. After work, Chinatsu heads to meet Chihiro at a restaurant, but trips on the stairs and runs into him. She's surprised to hear him mention their first meeting when he interviewed her for the job. During dinner, Chihiro asks if there's anything he can do to help her adjust to work life. Chinatsu starts thinking this might just be a work-related dinner. But when Chihiro turns serious, she wonders if he's about to confess. It turns out he was impressed by her cosplay at the event and wants to attend more conventions. He also asks for her help with photographing cosplayers, and despite feeling flustered, Chinatsu agrees, on the condition that he assists her with her costumes. The following day, Chinatsu invites Takuma to lunch. Meanwhile, Shiori playfully teases Chihiro, who notices how close they are. This teasing triggers Chihiro's wild imagination, and he starts daydreaming about love triangles among his coworkers. Even when Shiori tries to explain, Chihiro continues to indulge in his romantic fantasies. During lunch, Chinatsu seeks Takuma's advice after accidentally revealing her otaku interest to Chihiro. Takuma remains unaware of her cosplay hobby, and Chinatsu wonders whether she should embrace her interests openly at work. Just then, Chihiro and Shiori join them for lunch. Chinatsu becomes embarrassed, realizing Chihiro overheard her conversation with Takuma. The next day, Shiori decorates the office for Halloween, and Takuma is startled when he sees his mentor in costume and ends up role-playing Halloween with her. Meanwhile, Chihiro gives Chinatsu a pair of cat ears as a Halloween gift. Takuma and Shiori try different Halloween candies, but Shiori remembers they shouldn't overindulge or risk gaining weight. Things get awkward when she asks Takuma to help her taste some, but she eventually eats the candy herself. Unfortunately, one of the candies contains alcohol, causing Shiori to accidentally get drunk. When Chihiro and Chinatsu show up, Shiori becomes affectionate with Chinatsu. In her drunken state, Shiori mistakes Chihiro for a tree and starts thanking him for fostering a good work environment. When she spots Takuma, she begins crying out of happiness over how well he's adapted to the office and how capable he's become. Takuma, thoroughly embarrassed, is caught on camera by a coworker. Chihiro, curious about her feelings for Takuma, asks Shiori, but even intoxicated, she avoids a clear answer. Months later, Shiori is thrilled that December has arrived, signaling the start of the Christmas season. She teases Takuma about not having any Christmas plans, joking that she could show up to work dressed as Santa. Later, the two of them have a client meeting and walk past some stores afterward, where Shiori spots cute loungewear. Takuma pictures her wearing it, and she embarrassingly notices how much it resembles the stuffed animals they won together. Suddenly, a woman calling herself the Nia-tuber approaches them, conducting interviews with couples. To the Nia-tuber's disappointment, Takuma and Shiori aren't dating. Desperate, she begs them to pose as a couple for her video. And surprisingly, Shiori agrees. During the interview, Shiori gives a shockingly detailed description of Takuma, but when the topic of love comes up, she gets flustered. She invents a story about the two of them kissing in the break room. Much to Takuma's surprise, though he plays along, Takuma, overcommitted to the act, almost becomes a different person, hugging Shiori and crafting a fake narrative about staying over at each other's apartments. Shiori quickly realizes he's nervous despite his bold front when she feels him shaking. The reporter then asks for a kiss to wrap up the interview, and Shiori pulls Takuma close, faking a kiss for the camera. Later, Chinatsu is shocked when she sees the video online, and the next morning, it's the talk of the office. As the holiday season approaches, the company has a night out to celebrate. Afterward, Takuma and Shiori walk together, chatting about Chihiro's Santa costume. Secretly, Takuma imagines Shiori in her own festive outfit. They explore the city's Christmas decorations, sharing childhood stories about their holiday experiences. When Shiori starts feeling cold, Takuma offers her his gloves, but she already has a pair. Misunderstanding, she tries to give him her gloves, but they don't fit. Before parting ways, Shiori reveals she bought the pajamas they had seen earlier and gifts him the brown pair. Takuma also surprises her with the pink pajamas as they exchange gifts under the Christmas tree. Bravely, Shiori suggests they model the pajamas for each other, but the moment is interrupted when Chihiro and Chinatsu show up, having been spying on them. After some teasing, the coworkers exchange contact information, and as it begins to snow, Shiori suggests they build a snowman together. That night, Shiori feels self-conscious in her new pajamas and talks to her Takuma plushie for reassurance. Meanwhile, Takuma dreams of Shiori dressed as Santa, delivering presents while he helps as a reindeer. He wakes up embarrassed, realizing he's dreaming of his coworker. Chinatsu and Chihiro attend a comic convention together to sell her manuscripts. A few days earlier, Chinatsu, feeling overworked, lamented having no friends to assist her. Overhearing this, Chihiro volunteered to help. Chinatsu soon discovers that Chihiro has an eye for design, and they spend time reviewing her manga after work. Despite Chihiro's help, Chinatsu feels awkward showing more of her hobbies to him, her manager. At the convention, things get more embarrassing for Chinatsu when her friends mistake Chihiro for her boyfriend, since he casually refers to her as his gal. Meanwhile, Shiori has been reflecting on Christmas and decides to call Takuma to congratulate him on his stellar first year at work. They joke about their senior-junior dynamic, but the conversation turns heartfelt as they express mutual appreciation. After the call, Takuma is surprised by his sister, Yudaka, who interrogates him about whether he's dating anyone, suspecting him because she noticed some unusually cute pajamas. Takuma denies everything, but Yudaka remains unconvinced, suspecting someone from work. His night gets even stranger when Takuma dreams of Shiori as a stray cat in a box, which leaves him flustered as she behaves adorably. At the same time, Shiori dreams of being a stray cat, enjoying the attention from her junior at work. She playfully acts as a pet, but wakes up embarrassed by her silly dream. Meanwhile, Yudaka's suspicion deepens as she notices Takuma's cheery demeanor, leading her to give him a psychological test. She quickly deduces that Takuma might like someone with a cute, cat-like personality. Later, when Takuma and Shiori visit a shrine on New Year's, Yudaka secretly follows to confirm her theory. At the shrine, the awkwardness between Shiori and Takuma grows, thanks to their recent dreams. Chinatsu and Chihiro also arrive, and Yudaka, spying from a distance, is charmed by Shiori's cuteness, prompting her to abandon her hiding spot and embrace her. Takuma introduces his sister as overbearing, and as Yudaka fawns over Shiori, Chihiro seizes the moment, suggesting Yudaka could gain a sister-in-law if Takuma and Shiori got married. This embarrasses both, leading Takuma to scold his sister and send her away. Despite the awkward situation, Yudaka and Chihiro continue to tease the pair during their shrine visit. Takuma, now a full-time employee, is mentored by Shiori, who, though much shorter, commands respect. To celebrate the new year, they attend the festival together, joined by Chinatsu, Chihiro, and Yudaka. Shiori, eager to explore the stalls, becomes shy when Takuma shows interest in her excitement. The pair soon come across a crying child, and Shiori comforts her while Takuma searches for the parents. Watching from afar, Yudaka and Chihiro can't help but see them as a cute little family. Back at work, Shiori is glad to return to the office, though Takuma expresses disappointment at how quickly the holidays passed. Shiori becomes distracted, noticing Takuma seems taller than before. After comparing their heights, she confirms he's grown. Takuma, noticing a change in her scent, compliments her, assuming she bought new shampoo. Flustered, Shiori clarifies that it's actually new perfume. However, this leads to a misunderstanding when Takuma mistakenly thinks she's talking about something else. They eventually laugh it off after realizing Shiori's new boots were the cause of her increased height. Later, their colleague Ishimeya from Public Relations tries to charm Takuma into doing him a favor, but Shiori, overhearing, scolds him for attempting to poach her subordinate. Undeterred, Ishimeya secretly emails Takuma, trying to convince him again. Meanwhile, Chinatsu stays late at work, startled when Chihiro unexpectedly shows up. He inquires about her long hours, and she explains she's helping Ishimeya with some of his tasks, which he begged her to complete with a cute expression. Chihiro jokes that Ishimeya is taking advantage of her and promises to have a word with him. Grateful for his support, Chinatsu gets emotional, and Chihiro, seeing this, offers her tea and keeps her company as she finishes up. After working late, the manager takes Chinatsu to a fancy restaurant as a way of saying thanks. As they enjoy their meal, Chinatsu becomes curious about his romantic past. To her surprise, the manager admits that while he has plenty of romantic ideals and is fascinated by love, he's never actually had a romantic partner. Instead, he's mostly interested in watching other people's love stories unfold. Suddenly, Yudaka, sitting at the next table, interrupts. She reveals she ditched her coworkers for a solo meal, but feels awkward eating alone. She invites herself over, asking for pictures of Shiori from Chihiro. This makes Chinatsu feel slightly envious. However, Yudaka misinterprets the situation and slides closer to Chinatsu. The confusion worsens as Chihiro and Yudaka each try to pair the other up with Chinatsu. The next morning, Takuma is startled awake by Yudaka, who demands that he get pictures of Shiori for her. She teases that Shiori could be her future sister-in-law, and she's fascinated by her fluffy hair. Yudaka also reveals that she's now friends with his boss and threatens to blackmail him if he doesn't comply. When Takuma attempts to send the photos to Yudaka, his sister takes his phone and accidentally sends a text to Shiori, requesting cute pictures instead. Mortified by the message, Shiori is unsure how to respond, but Takuma quickly explains the mix-up. Shiori surprisingly decides to send a cute photo anyway, admitting that exchanging pictures feels a little like something couples do. Feeling guilty, Yudaka later sends Shiori baby photos of Takuma to make amends. The following morning, Takuma heads to work, nervous about running into Shiori after the awkwardness of the previous night. His anxiety proves unnecessary when Shiori is more amused than embarrassed by the situation. As they chat, their manager, hiding in the bushes, suddenly appears to snap a picture of them together. Shiori admits she was a little shy about it, but quickly pulls others in the office for a group photo. Yudaka, upon seeing the picture at her job, complains about being left out. Later, Chinatsu, feeling overworked, starts browsing vacation options. Takuma reminds her they just returned from the New Year's break, but Shiori and another colleague begin imagining new holiday destinations. They suggest going on a group vacation, though Takuma hesitates. Chihiro manages to convince them all to go since work is slow. Reluctant to be the only guy on the trip, Takuma ropes in the manager to join. Chihiro becomes even more excited, thinking of all the spying he could do on the group. A few days later, the group arrives at their vacation spot. Takuma panics when he hears Shiori scream, but discovers she's just overwhelmed with joy at seeing so many cats. Unfortunately, the cats seem frightened of her, while Chinatsu ends up being surrounded by them. Later, they all go swimming, but Takuma grows nervous upon seeing Shiori in a swimsuit, and Shiori in turn becomes self-conscious. Chinatsu invites everyone to the river, but Shiori hesitates and asks them to go ahead. Takuma realizes that Shiori doesn't know how to swim due to a childhood accident. Despite her fears, she agrees to try with Takuma's help, but things take a turn when Takuma gets a cramp and nearly drowns. Shiori, overcoming her fear, manages to help him. Afterwards, she and Chinatsu relax in the hot springs, discussing the trip. Shiori still feels a little embarrassed about not being able to swim. At dinner, Shiori drinks a bit too much and becomes unusually affectionate. Takuma, both flustered and amused, tries to manage her as Chinatsu and Chihiro watch on with amusement. His plan to care for his mentor backfires when his coworkers sneak off, leaving him alone with the tipsy Shiori. The situation escalates when she offers to brush his teeth, and eventually they end up turning off the lights to share a futon. Later, hearing their coworkers returning, Takuma, worried about being caught in an awkward situation, hides them both in a nearby closet. He panics after sneezing, but Shiori, still half asleep, hugs him tightly. Chinatsu, becoming suspicious, approaches the closet. However, Chihiro begins recounting a ghost story he heard about the inn, and since Chinatsu is terrified of ghosts, she decides not to open the closet. Meanwhile, Shiori, hearing the ghost tale, tries to escape their hiding spot. Takuma drapes a cloth over Shiori, causing her to unintentionally frighten their coworkers. Later, after she falls asleep, he gently puts his mentor to bed, only for their coworkers to return at the worst possible moment. When they all resume work, Takuma and Shiori find themselves in another tricky situation, this time stuck hiding to avoid a pair of colleagues kissing in a storeroom. The awkward scenario begins when Chihiro sends them on a supply run for the company mascot. While searching the storeroom, Takuma and Shiori stumble upon two coworkers secretly meeting for a romantic rendezvous. Embarrassed, they try to sneak away but quickly get cornered. With no other options, they hide in a cramped storage locker, only to find themselves stuck there for a long while as their colleagues take their time. The awkwardness between them grows in the tight space, and in a desperate attempt to escape, Takuma devises a plan. Unfortunately for him, his phone is left on his desk, and Shiori's phone is inconveniently tucked into her back pocket. After awkwardly retrieving her phone, Takuma calls in a fake emergency to lure their coworkers away, giving them a chance to escape. They agree not to mention the incident, but Chihiro immediately grows suspicious, and both Takuma and Shiori have a sleepless night. The next morning, Chihiro notices their strange behavior and concludes something must have happened between them. promptly reporting it to Yudaka, who soon ambushes her younger brother. Yudaka teases Takuma, claiming she can smell Shiori's scent on his soup, deducing they must have been trapped in a locker together. Flustered, Takuma escapes to work but struggles to concentrate due to his nerves. Meanwhile, Shiori tries to maintain a brave face, but is equally embarrassed. Takuma later suggests they have dinner after work to clear up the misunderstanding, causing Shiori to worry throughout the day that he might be planning to confess to her. While her mind races, Shiori overhears that their kissing coworkers have been reassigned because office romances are forbidden. She starts imagining a similar situation for her and Takuma, picturing what they'd look like as a couple. However, her thoughts are interrupted when their love-struck coworkers reappear, far too obvious about their forbidden relationship. That evening, Shiori heads to the rooftop for her meeting with Takuma. She greets him cheerfully, unintentionally derailing his plan to address the romantic tension between them, and he quickly changes the subject. Takuma, a new hire, is attending the company's 40th anniversary event with Shiori, their colleague Chinatsu, and their manager Chihiro. During the presentation, the CEO announces a competition for new hires, with the winner earning a beach vacation for their entire team. Shiori reveals that Chihiro had won the MVP award when he was new. The competition revolves around promoting the company mascot, and Takuma is determined to win the vacation to spend time with Shiori. His teammates agree to help him out so he can focus on winning. Later, Takuma chats with fellow new hire Yusuke, who isn't interested in the prize as he doesn't care for his team. Yusuke even mentions wanting to transfer to Takuma's team to work with Shiori, prompting some teasing from Chihiro about Takuma's relationship with his mentor. This causes Takuma to reflect on the various moments he's shared with Shiori, including his failed attempts to confess. As they talk, they're approached by Akari, a standout from Group 1 who's favored to win. Focused on work, Akari overhears their conversation and wrongly assumes Shiori is using her position to take advantage of Takuma. When Takuma and Yusuke defend Shiori, an argument breaks out between Yusuke and Akari. Luckily, Akari's manager Shinobu arrives and calms her down. Shinobu, who started at the same time as Chihiro, is a friendly rival, especially since Chihiro won the award during their early days. Despite their rivalry, the two managers have developed mutual respect, with Shinobu even wishing Chihiro would join her team. She reveals to Takuma that she made a deal with the CEO. If her group wins the competition, Chihiro will transfer to her team. Takuma, not wanting to lose his manager, declares that his team won't let that happen, but Akari remains determined to be the MVP. As they leave, Ishimaya from PR, who had been eavesdropping, reveals himself. Worried, Takuma returns to his group to find Shiori and Chihiro having tea, blissfully unaware of the impending challenge. As part of the competition, their team visits a local school to promote Maotaro in a product test. They spend the day playing with kids, showcasing Maotaro merchandise. Despite the fun, Takuma remains anxious about the competition, especially since he hasn't told his team about Shinobu's plan. As they interact with the children, both Takuma and Shiori are impressed by how well the other handles the kids. Together, they even resolve a squabble between some children, but this leads to one girl asking them to pretend to play house. Shiori starts daydreaming about a life with Takuma, but the girl actually wanted Shiori to play the house cat. Shiori awkwardly obliges, embarrassing herself in front of her coworkers. This also leads to a close moment between her and Takuma. Later, they help the kids build a sandcastle, which is soon destroyed by another child. However, Takuma and Shiori work together to resolve the conflict and get the children to play nicely. Despite the stress of the day, the team successfully wraps up their visit to the school. On the ride back, Shiori's thoughts drift, and she begins thinking more romantically about Takuma. The next day, Takuma stumbles upon Shuri working overtime in the office, enjoying a cup of ramen, when he unintentionally overhears her singing. Flustered by the situation, Shuri distracts herself by playfully convincing Takuma to sing along about their company mascot. Elsewhere, Yu Isuke runs into Okari in the break room, offering her a word of encouragement to not overwork herself, but she brushes it off. The pressure of the competition weighs heavily on Takuma as well, and by the following day, he is visibly drained. The weight of winning, not wanting to let his coworkers down or lose his manager, begins to overwhelm him. Sensing his stress, Shiori reassures Takuma, encouraging him to simply do his best. Meanwhile, Akari meets with her manager, who praises her efforts, but behind her composed exterior, Akari feels the same strain from the competition. This culminates in Takuma finding her crying near the bathrooms, and feeling concerned, he later asks Shiori if she could help Akari since she has always been able to calm him down. Shiori agrees, and later that evening, she finds Akari working late in the break room. Although competitive, Akari is initially resistant to Shiori's help. Shiori manages to get through to Akari by chatting about Meow Taro, the beloved company mascot, which sparks an enthusiastic response from Akari. Shiori then gently asks if Akari is feeling the pressure of the competition, leading Akari to admit that she's been hiding her lack of artistic skill. Despite being hired, she struggled with her art and kept it a secret, fearful of letting her manager, Shinobu, down. Shiori advises her to be honest with Shinobu, reassuring her that everything will be alright. Akari takes the advice and shows her terrible artwork to Shinobu, breaking down into tears over her perceived failure. Realizing she had pushed Akari too hard, Shinobu comforts her, rallying the team to offer their support. As the competition nears, Takuma suits up in a Mount Haro costume, earning praise from his team. Shiori, however, is visibly nervous for him. Suddenly, Akari arrives and declares herself as his rival, but she also thanks him for getting Shiori to help cheer her up, despite her resolve to win. During their conversation, Shiori discovers the true stakes of the competition. Chihiro's transfer depends on the outcome. Upset that Takuma kept this from her while everyone else knew, Shiori confronts him, but he apologizes and assures her that with her support, he will succeed. On the day of the competition, Chinatsu presents a reimagined mascot as a super friend, while Takuma takes the stage dressed as a skateboarding Mount Haro, much to the audience's delight. Backstage, however, Shiori remains anxious. Takuma's magic trick performance boosts his popularity, making Shiori feel a twinge of jealousy, yet she's relieved that things are going well. Later, she impulsively hugs a costumed Mao Taro, only to realize with embarrassment that Chihiro, not Takuma, was inside the costume. Takuma emerges moments later, laughing at the mix-up. When the results are announced, both Takuma's and Akari's teams receive awards for excellence, though neither secures the MVP title. Takuma is disappointed about missing the beach vacation prize, but Shiori reassures him. Meanwhile, Akari feels guilty for letting her manager down, but Shinobu consoles her, expressing her appreciation. To everyone's surprise, Yusuke wins the MVP award, leaving him equally puzzled. Afterward, the entire company celebrates at a holiday party, and Shiori playfully drags Takuma to eat ramen with her. As they chat, they become flustered when passersby mistake them for a couple. Following the holidays, work resumes, and Chinatsu heads out for lunch, with Chihiro tagging along. Shiori teases Chinatsu about it being a date, only to be teased herself when Takuma joins them. Meanwhile, Yusuke returns from his vacation, sporting a tan and seemingly traumatized by his coworkers. Eiko shows up to reveal a new game she created inspired by the competition, where players romance a humanized Mao Taro. The group is baffled by the strange choices, and Akari, a devoted fan of Mao Taro, becomes upset that Eiko turned her beloved mascot into a human. The two argue over whether fans will appreciate the game. Takuma and Shiori, reminded of their own blossoming romance, recall the time Takuma nearly confessed to Shiori on the company roof. Eiko misinterprets their reactions and, thinking they dislike her game, tells them not to give up, inadvertently motivating them to address their feelings for one another. That night, Shiori admits to Takuma that she'd like them to be closer, not just as coworkers, but as friends outside of work. Takuma eagerly agrees, and the pair excitedly plan activities they can do together. Meanwhile, Chihiro, amused, watches them from afar. Despite their new friendship, not much changes between Takuma and Shiori, as they both continue to hide their deeper feelings. During lunch, they both ponder when the right time would be to move their relationship forward. The conversation turns to amusement parks, sparking the idea for a potential date. Nico's talk of lavish vacations derails their daydreams, leaving them both embarrassed, but secretly still eager for a trip together. Akari, still focused on her dream of building a Mount Taro theme park, reluctantly agrees to join the group for a research trip to an amusement park. However, their schedules make it difficult to plan. After lunch, Takuma privately asks Shiori if she'd like to visit an amusement park with him. She quickly agrees, and the next day, after much deliberation over their outfits, they go on their first official date, commemorating it with a photo at the park. And that's all for this video. Be sure to subscribe if you enjoyed it, and I'll see you in the next one.